What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. I'm your boy, Andrew Mott. Today, we're going to be talking top 10 rookie running backs. That way, you guys don't screw up your 2023 rookie drafts because you picked the wrong guys. We want to make sure that you guys are picking the right guys, and I got my top 10 list for you here today. So let's not waste any time. I want to get right into it, and let's talk about RB1 in this class, and there should be no surprises. It's Bijan Robinson. He is the RB1. Got drafted by the Atlanta Falcons with the 8th pick in the first round. There's really not much to say here, guys. He is, in my opinion, a generational prospect. He's going to a team where he is going to get utilized like the primary option in the entire offense. I would not be surprised if 1,500 scrimmage yards is what happens in year one for him. Bijan Robinson, man, there's really nothing much more to say. He is 101 in your rookie drafts, and in your super flex, maybe you get lucky and get a generational talent at 102 because somebody takes Anthony Richardson. But Bijan Robinson, man, he is the guy. He is the 101 tier of his own. Now, for the running back 2 in this class, I did take Jahmyr Gibbs. He is my RB2, and I have him in a tier of his own as the RB2. He was picked 12th overall in the first round by the Detroit Lions, who then proceeded to trade away DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be utilized in this offense in a very fantasy-friendly role. Gibbs is really good in kind of a zone run scheme, but he's also really good in the pass game. That is where he excels. And for fantasy leagues, especially your leagues that are, PPR leagues, you are going to be loving Jahmyr Gibbs for the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff is going to check it down to him a lot. He's going to score a lot of fantasy points that way. Probably won't be utilized in the red zone as much as we want, especially with David Montgomery there. But at the end of the day, he is the RB2 in the class. He's going to get a lot of receptions, and he's in a tier of his own to myself as well. So that is my RB2 in the class. Now, here's where the running back class gets a little bit, I would say, diverse. And to me, it's going to be Devon, Achane, RB3. He was drafted by the Miami Dolphins in the third round with the 21st pick off the board in that third round. He's going into a landing spot where he's going to it really could not be a more perfect fit. When I looked across the NFL landscape and I said, okay, where could Devon Achane go? Because to me, he was my third highest graded guy as far as the tape scores went. He scored a 7.56. That's out of 10 in tape. And just to give you reference, Jahmyr Gibbs scored a 7.67. So I had him pretty high up there. But to me, there was things about Achane, specifically size and utilization issues that I think that are going to happen for him, where I was just not fully ready to put him in that Gibbs tier. And he didn't get the draft capital, obviously. Still good draft capital for a running back. That third round, we want to see those guys round 1, obviously, round 2, round 3. But I just don't think he's going to be a full workhorse back. Miami is already talking about maybe wanting to add another veteran. They said they might not be done yet. And yeah, man, it's just, I don't know. Devon Achane, I think this is a perfect fit. He's going to be fine. He's going to have a lot of big plays. I think of somewhat the ceiling for him would kind of be similar to how like a Tony Pollard was utilized last year with Zeke and Dallas. I could see something like that happening. Maybe not as much between the tackles, but still something similar to that for fantasy football. So the ceiling is still high. And again, tier 3, but a tier of his own for my RB3, Devon Achane. Now, for my running back 4, I do have a massive tier here. So this is the top of my tier 4. Running back 4 is going to be Zach Charbonnet. And unfortunately, this is a guy that we did really like. I had a tape score of 7.5, and he got second round draft capital, which is the second or the third best of any running back in this class. But he goes to a landing spot where he is going to end up being quite clearly the backup to Kenneth Walker. And this kind of hurts both of those guys, right? Because Zach Charbonnet obviously is never going to be utilized to his full capabilities with Kenneth Walker there. And then Kenneth Walker is also not going to get that usage that we saw last year with Zach Charbonnet there. So it kind of hurts both. As we kind of dip down into these tiers that I'm talking about right now, this is a class that we said was really deep. It was a good running back class. And I still think they are good talents. It's just the landing spots for these guys kind of got into that handcuff territory. We're kind of looking at high value handcuffs. And I think if you wanted to look at these guys similarly to how like Alexander Madison, Tony Pollard, like a Samaje Perine, and just a couple of these other guys have been over the last couple of years for their respective teams, who some of them have gotten roles and worked their way into roles where they are the primary ball carrier now, and Tony Pollard and things like that. So I would kind of view this class like that over the next couple of years. All of these guys are going to have value. It's going to be unpredictable when that value shows up throughout the season. So Zach Charbonnet, man, he is my RB4, and that's mainly based on the talent. But as far as opportunity goes, I'm not really sure where it's going to come. My assumption is that they will use Charbonnet in the passing game more than they use Kenneth Walker. He is a little bit better in the passing game than Kenneth Walker is. So maybe he'll get some value there with some receptions. There's also a possibility that he maybe gets some goal line carries. And if he does do that, then get some receptions and some goal line carries, and all of a sudden you're somewhat valuable. But again, he's going to be hindered and handcuffed as far as being the handcuff to Kenneth Walker is. So it's not really great in this running back class for me. It's a lot of wait and sees for me at this point. But let's get into my RB5. And again, this is tier 4 for me, and it's going to be Roschon Johnson. He was drafted in the 4th round. He went to the Chicago Bears. And the reason why I have him here is he's a guy that, for me on tape, he didn't score fantastic. It was 6.8 for me on the tape score, but he goes to a situation where it's very murky. There is not a clear-cut RB1 on the roster. You have guys like Khalil Herbert, Dante Foreman, Treston Ebner, some of these other guys that are deeper on the roster, but there's not anybody there that is a clear-cut running back to me. And quite honestly, Roschon Johnson feels like he is being drafted to go into that David Montgomery role that just left. So I do like Roschon Johnson here. I would not be surprised if Roschon outscored Charbonnet and maybe even outscored Achane when the year's all said and done. But I do like those guys ahead of Roschon, so that's why I'm going to keep him as my RB5. But Roschon Johnson, he's a top 5 RB for me in this class. Now, we're still sticking in that tier 4. There's a couple more guys that we're going to talk about that's in that tier 4. And RB6 for me is going to be Tyjae Spears. Tyjae Spears goes to the Tennessee Titans with a 3rd round pick 18 in the NFL draft. He's going over there. I had a tape score of 7.41 for Tyjae Spears. Love the tape. Elephant in the room with Tyjae right now is I guess that there were medicals that came out where he doesn't have an ACL and there's possible arthritis in the knee, or there is arthritis in the knee. It's obviously not anything we want to hear, but if you're viewing your running backs in 2 to 3 year windows anyways, which I think we should be viewing them in 2 to 3 year windows anyways, it's not super concerning for Tyjae Spears. Now, the thing giving me confidence in Tyjae and why I want him to be my RB6 in this class is, 1, obviously I love the tape, but 2, the Tennessee Titans were confident enough to draft him in the 3rd round after seeing the medicals, and they know more about the medicals than we do, and they were confident drafting him in the 3rd round, which we know is good draft capital for a running back. So if they were confident taking him, I'm confident taking him in my rookie drafts. Tyjae Spears, man, I think he is going to be the heir apparent, probably to Derrick Henry. There's still been rumors that are floating around of Derrick Henry possibly being traded. And again, at the end of the day, Derrick Henry is going to be 30 years old at the end of the season, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm okay holding Tyjae Spears and just seeing what happens, because I do think that next year it could possibly be his backfield, and then it's wheels up for Tyjae at that point. So I do have Tyjae as my RB6 in the class. Now, 2 more guys in tier 4. For me, RB7, it's going to be Kendre Miller. Kendre, a guy who I liked coming out of TCU. He goes to the New Orleans Saints, early 3rd round. It was the 8th pick in the 3rd round. And he goes into a backfield where he's kind of going to be unreliable right now. There's a whole bunch of question marks that we don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. Is there a suspension coming? How many games is the suspension going to be? Is there going to be a suspension at all? And then obviously with Alvin Kamara too, he's getting up there into that running back age cliff. What is going to happen with Alvin Kamara? How much longer is he going to be here on the Saints? I don't know. Questions I don't have answers to right now. However, They also went and signed Jamal Williams. Now, Jamal Williams, obviously, he's there on I think it's a 3-year deal, but it's really 2 years based on where the money's at. So I do think that Kendre Miller is going to get worked in a little bit more than we think so year one, especially if there is an Alvin Kamara suspension. But Kendre Miller is a guy who's talented enough, the third-round draft capital, and it goes to a team that likes to utilize a couple running backs. We've seen in years where they have Ingram and they have Kamara and they use both, right? So we've seen that before. I wouldn't be surprised if Kendre gets in the mix. And I don't know, man. Maybe he ends up being the goal line back. I know Jamal was really good in the red zone last year, and he was really good on the goal line. But maybe Kendre gets that role. I don't know. It's ambiguous at this point to me. We're picking guys in backfields that are ambiguous. But Kendre Miller, he's going to be my RB7 in this class. Now, my last guy in tier 4, it's going to be Tank Bigsby. He was drafted third round as well. We had a lot of first, second, and third round running backs, which is what we wanted. We wanted that draft capital out of these guys. Tank Bigsby is the last of these guys that did get that draft capital. He's going to a team that obviously has a clear running back that most people in the Dynasty Fantasy community love. It's going to be Travis Etienne, obviously a guy who is Trevor Lawrence's boy and had first-round draft capital just a couple years back. So I do think that Tank Bigsby is going to be utilized on this offense right away. I think you could see a situation where last year we were watching James Robinson and Travis Etienne, and they were playing together, obviously, before the trade, and J-Rob looked good, and Etienne looked fine, and there was just times where it was kind of a double backfield, it's kind of a 60-40 split, and I think that might be what you're going to get out of Tank Bigsby, and I just like the talent enough. He scored 7.1 for me on my tape score, so I do like Tank Bigsby there, and I just like him here. It feels like a good landing spot. I think it's safe. Of the handcuff type of running backs, I think he has the clearest opportunity to work year one. And so I like Tank Bigsby here. Definitely worth it. I got him in multiple leagues in my rookie drafts this last weekend, and I was taking him in like fourth rounds or late third rounds and early fourth rounds. So Tank Bigsby, man, he's a guy I like, and he's my RB8 in this class. Now we're going to drop down to tier 5, where we're going to talk about the last two guys in my top 10. And RB9 for me is going to be Chase Brown. Chase Brown was drafted in the 5th round. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the reason why I have Chase at running back 9 here is we've had rumors and all this, uh, tension with the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Mixon this offseason. They also did let Samaje Perine walk, and they haven't really seen what they wanted to see out of guys like Chris Evans and Travion Williams and things like that in the past. So to me, Chase Brown is coming in. He's going to play similar into that Samaje Perine role, at least while Mixon is there. And I don't know how long Mixon is going to be there. Now, I don't know if Chase Brown is the answer long term, but there is opportunity for Chase Brown to make an impact here. He's going to a team that has obviously a great offense. They're going to be in the red zone and things a lot. Now, I don't know if he's going to get the carries. Probably not with Joe Mixon on the roster, but if Joe is ever injured or he's gone, Chase Brown could get interesting. So for me, I'm just taking shots here at this point. Chase Brown, he's my running back 9. And then last but not least, tier 5, Zach Evans out of Ole Miss. And I don't love Zach Evans' tape necessarily. He did score a 6.7 for me. He is a guy that looked really good, his first year at TCU, and then he transferred, and then it's just kind of been a down spiral for Zach Evans since. But he ends up getting some pretty bad draft capital. It's late 6th round. It was in some of the compensatory picks where he was being drafted at, but he goes to the Los Angeles Rams. And the reason why I have him here at 10 is probably more of an indictment on how I view Cam Akers. And I don't think that Cam Akers is solidified himself as the true workhorse in that offense. I would not be surprised that if Zach Evans comes in and he shows a little bit and starts pushing Cam Akers for touches. I just think that there's so much so many questions about the Rams backfield as a whole. It could even be Kyron Williams from last year or things like that, right? But I want to take a shot on a guy who I can at least see a clear or a somewhat clear of a path to touches year one, especially when I'm shooting guys like this that you're going to draft in your fourth and fifth rounds of your rookie drafts. So for me, RB10, I'm going to go with Zach Evans for the Los Angeles Chargers and just hope that something happens, man. I don't like Cam Akers as a prospect. He just hasn't looked good to me. So I know I said I don't like Zach Evans' tape, but if he looks better than Cam Akers, it would not surprise me if McVay ends up saying, "Hey, we're going to see what we got out of this guy." There was times last year where they were just throwing Darrell Henderson out and stuff just to see what happened, and there was the whole Cam Akers getting benched and wanting to be traded and this other stuff. So everybody who thinks that Cam Akers is locked in as the RB1 on that roster, I think it's a little bit crazy right now because I didn't see enough last year to prove that. So for me, I'll take the shot on Zach Evans here as RB10. So with that being said, everybody, that is my top 10 running backs for the 2023 NFL draft. Obviously, this is post-draft rankings, and this is my official rankings. First time ever doing official rankings for you guys here on YouTube. I've done them years and years in the past and never have started doing content creation until now. So this is my first rendition of that. So this is my top 10. It'll be fun to see where they land a couple years from now and see what panned out and what didn't. I hope you guys are here for the ride because we're going to see it long term. But wide receiver rankings coming out tomorrow. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for checking out the video. Again, we will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.